Привет, Рэнди. Рад тебя видеть и слышать. Как твои дела?
Hello, Randy. Great to see you and to hear you. How are you doing?
It's great to see you again. It's been too long. You put on a year and a half. You're a year and a half older. I guess you're old enough to drive a car.
Пока нет. Но
Not
впереди.
yet. That's ahead of her.
Okay, well, she's old enough to join the military. All right. If you're Ukrainian, you'd be old enough to join the military because they take anybody.
That's
К сожалению.
true. Unfortunately, you're right.
It's sad. And I'm old enough. You know, I'm old enough. They'd bring me and they'd drag me off the street if I was there.
Мне кажется, мы бы там все были.
Yeah, we would all end up there probably.
My dog would end up there. They put a uniform on my dog. Everybody's eligible to fight, but except for Zelensky, even though he's dressed up to fight, he ain't ever gonna fight. He'd leave the country for good if he had to fight.
Для него законы, к сожалению, не писаны.
The laws are not written for Zelensky, unfortunately.
Yes. Ukrainian armed forces, what's left of them, are going crazy. They're only engaging in terrorist attacks now. They love to kill civilians.
They've been doing it since 2014, so it's not news and not recent.
I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff, but I was there in Donetsk for a week, and every day I was there, they hit a civilian target. They hit a church, they hit open market, they hit a university, and they hit a school bus. You know,
Yeah.
So they're sick, perverted people. In the meantime, their soldiers are losing in Kursk, they're losing Eastern Front, whatever, in Donbass, and they're losing everywhere else. And so what do they have? They're mad, they're crazy, they're psychotic, and so they launch missiles at, Moscow. And these are fucking Nazis that don't care.
Yes, you're right. They are desperate and they have no stoppers. Like, we are not humans for them, so they don't care. The more of us die, the happier they are.
Yeah, pretty scary shit. Well, at any rate, it's great to be here. Great to see the two of you. I told you I'd come out and visit you when I go to Russia again. It will surprise you because I don't want to carry around an American cell phone because I'll get hit by one of their little drones, the Ukrainians. But Fayed and I have one thing in common, for sure, a lot in common, but we're both on the Miravort's assassination list.
I'm with you guys.
Oh, you
All
too?
three of us, of course.
My God, they could score a fortune if they were to get the three of us at one time. Let's never be in the same room together.
Это правда.
That's
Мы
true.
собираться.
No, let's still get together anyway.
Right. Let's go have some borscht and let's meet at the Donetsk Palace. All right, because it's a beautiful hotel with a great restaurant. They had the best food I've had anywhere when I was there. The best steak I've ever had was at the Donetsk Palace. And then, the first thing they tell you when you get to Donetsk, don't violate the curfew wherever you go and do not walk across grass. And what do? As soon as I get there, I walk across grass to get a vape pipe. You know what I mean? And everyone's doing this. Oh, no. So you got to be careful because of the pedal mines, those
Yes.
mines that they have, butterfly mines.
Ну да.
Yes.
All right. I think she's getting bored with my story, so I know she has questions for me.
Мне все потрясающе.
Right. You know how I got there, don't you? The whole trip was planned. Go to Moscow for 5 days back in March 30th, 2023, and then spend 5 days in Moscow, take a first aid training course, and then go to Rostov, and then go up to Donetsk, Mariupol, and Salomorgia, and all of that afterwards.
Mhm.
And I took the first aid course, and I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. They put a bulletproof vest on me and a helmet and all of that. They're telling me how to, stitch up somebody that's got their arm cut off and all of that. And I said, oh no. I said, I'm not going. They said, okay. All the other guys in the group said, all right, well, can we go to Dr. Zhivago's? They said, let's have a toast, a goodbye toast, and we'll say goodbye to you. So we had a toast and 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 another bottle, another bottle. The next thing I know, I wake up and I'm on the train to Rostov.
Ну да, это классика.
That's really classic.
All right, it's right up there with Dostoevsky and Tolstoy. You put it in those classic books. All right. I'm the idiot in Dostoevsky's The Idiot. That's me. Mishkin. That was
Mishkin, yes. Yeah. Князь Mishkin, yes.
Everyone
Prince
calls
Mishkin.
Mishkin. Yes.
Это потрясающе.
No, that's fantastic, really. So you read Dostoevsky, you know Mishkin. That's
yes, I know Mishkin. I know Smerdyakov. I know Raskolnikov. I know Anna Karenina, and I know Natasha from War and Peace. I read those books when I was young, when I was her age. I was like a little bit older, like 19, 20. And then the translation got better because I used old translation back then, back in the 60s and 70s. From, you couldn't tell the difference in the style between Dostoevsky and Tolstoy. It's almost like they used AI to do it. Now they have people that speak fluent Russian and fluent English, and you can't tell the difference that translated what it would genuinely sound like. You can tell the difference.
Это очень радует, что хорошие книги переводят, их вообще можно читать.
It's great that great books are translated better now, and it's possible to read them.
Ask anybody in this country her age, or even your age, what do you think of Dostoevsky and Tolstoy? They'll say, what? They have no idea. So in this country, they don't read the classics. They don't know Pushkin, and none of Chekhov. Forget about it. Nabokov. They don't know any of the writers there.
Вообще все впереди.
Well, life is long. They still have, if they are Faina's age, they still have life ahead of them to enlighten themselves and finally start to read. So it's not lost completely.
Your president is very well read. You know what I mean? He really is very. I wish we had the last 10 presidents. I think they read comic books. They don't read books. I don't think Biden ever read a book.
Oh, he read 3 of them, the ABC, the second one, and the green one.
Yes, the green eggs and ham. Right, Dr. Seuss. Yeah.
Это печально.
Well, that's sad.
What can I tell you? Everyone now, you got this blue and yellow fever. They're so blinded. They don't read anything. They watch corporate news and twist their minds, and they're so easily manipulated. I get a lot of people attacking me for my opposition to Zelensky, my opposition to Ukraine and NATO, and all of these people that want to destroy Russia. I got to tell them what they want to do is what they did to Africa. The European nations, what they did to Africa in the 1880s, divided it up into various states that were colonies. That's what they want to do to Russia. I mean, it's so obvious that these countries can't exist. They're bloodsuckers, they're parasites, and they can't exist. They don't have a self-contained economy. Maybe Germany does, but they're fading. And so, but they'd love to carve up Russia and make it like 25 Baltic states. You know what I mean? 50 Baltic states where they can. But anyway, we're drifting away from what she wants to talk about. But I will say that there is this new wave of blue and yellow fever, I call it.
Как обстановка в США, например, особенно после прихода к власти Трампа?
Well, how is it in general in the United States now that Trump was re-elected again? Do you see any changes in domestic politics?
I mean, you have this massive attempt to undermine Trump's rapprochement, normalization of relations with Russia. You have the deep state, those people vested in the destruction of Russia and the continuation of the war. People in the military-industrial complex, holdovers from the CIA, the way it was composed before he took office, that are fighting tooth and nail to take it back to where it was under Biden. Because they make a lot of money off it. CIA has something to do. It's mind-boggling how easily the public is manipulated by the press. But they take their marching orders from the Pentagon, the old Pentagon, from the military-industrial complex, and they're totally bought and paid for. And so they're out there waving the blue and yellow flag. And the crazy thing is that these people that are doing it want the war to continue. They don't like Ukrainians. They couldn't care less about Ukrainians. 1 million dead Ukrainians because, we made them go to war against Russia. Going back to 2014, or even before that, we've had, our eyes on Russia. And in the meantime, Zelensky sold out his country. He sold his soul. Egomaniacal, shitty comedian that thought he was going to be, this wonderful, inspiration to the world, is standing up against the bear. But he sold out his country, sold out, his own, sold out his family, and millions have left because of him. And 1 million have died because of him. But his only other choice was not to do it. He had been killed by, the Nazis that surround him.
Я недавно слышала, что Илон Маск поставляет Украине Старлинка. Европа в открытую поставляет оружие и наемников, которые солдат ВСУ в учебных центрах, и в то же время говорит всему миру, что Запад не сторона конфликта. Нет ли в этих словах противоречия? И как бы Запад расценивал, если бы все это делала Россия, помогая, например, Мексике?
Well, Elon Musk is supplying Starlink, right? Europe openly supplies weapons and mercenaries. It trains military personnel in European training centers. And at the same time, they tell the whole world that West is not a party to the conflict. I mean, what would it be if, for example, Russia did that? Say, supplying weapons to Mexico. How would it look to the West?
Well, no, they wouldn't like it at all. If they had weapons up in Ottawa, out of anywhere in Canada or in Mexico or in Cuba, wouldn't allow it in Cuba in '62. If there were people there that said, "All right, we're going to start a fight against the U.S." and all France did was give them weapons, and the UK gave them Storm Shadows. Not U.S., but if Russia did that, Russia did what the UK has been doing, and what France has been doing, provide weapons and arms and artillery shells and drones and all of that. It'd be an act of war. This is an act of war. What these NATO states who are providing the weapons have committed. They've committed an act of war. It's amazing that Russia has not responded, but they certainly are within their legal right to respond against these countries that have been supplying Ukraine with these deadly weapons. And don't tell me that the drones that hit Moscow last night weren't directed by MI6 or maybe the CIA or French intelligence. I don't know. Certainly.
Yes, they were.
So imagine if a bunch of drones came in from Canada and hit New York City, and they were being operated by Russian technicians. That would be an act of war. So it is an act of war, and Russia has been very restrained, and I'm sure the people are getting very impatient. Putin has played a very patient game, not a game, but he's done it. He's tolerated it to avoid a nuclear war. But they're pushing for it, and I suppose people like Macron wants to be the next. He's not as tall as Napoleon, as short as Napoleon was. Macron is even shorter, particularly metaphysically shorter, or metaphorically shorter. And so is the stammering Starmer. These guys are short people in many ways. These are two dead nations. They're dead nations. It's a little island that has a small army. Great Britain and France, hasn't won a war. Can't remember the last time, maybe 1760 or something like that. But they lost against the Germans in 1870, Franco-Prussian War. They lost against Russia, and they got beat by Germany again in 2 days in 1940, and they lost 1.5 million people. Front lines in the trenches in World War I. I mean, they lost a lot of people in the Crimean War. And then they lost in Vietnam and losing everything in Africa right now. So the only thing they have that's any good are their croissants and their wine. But other than that, they have nothing much to give to the human race. They collaborated with the Nazis. I mean, they were there. They're just like Ukrainians, the Bandera group of SS Waffen 22. The French they collaborated. They let the Germans in and didn't resist. There was a resistance, but the military collapsed and they set up a puppet government. So I don't hold them in high esteem, France, nor England. Without Russia, let's be honest, they'd all be speaking German, all right? If Russia doesn't enter World War II and three-quarters of the Wehrmacht, the German army was three-quarters, all right? Almost four-fifths were there. And so if the Russians and the Germans never fought, they would have clobbered England like in a couple of days if they put everything in that direction. So they're lucky and they should be grateful and they should celebrate the Victory Day of the Great Patriotic War in May instead of trying to destroy Russia.
Почему мы не слышим реакции ООН или правозащитников после начала вторжения Турции и Израиля в Сирию, свержения там власти, притязания США на Гренландию, Панамский канал и Канаду? Может, ООН нужно распустить или реформировать?
Okay, totally different question. Why do we not hear any reactions from the United Nations or from human rights activists after Turkey and Israel invaded Syria, overthrew the government there, and after the United States claims to Greenland, to Panama Canal, to Canada? Maybe United Nations should be dissolved as an organization. Maybe it's useless now.
Well, you have a couple of good nations in there. I mean, the vast majority of the United Nations happen to or not support U.S. Actions in Panama and action in Syria. But the Security Council is a different story. The Security Council is, you get the 5 permanent members and you got 10 rotating members. And most of the 10 rotating members are in the pocket of the West, the Western countries, European countries. So it's very difficult to get anything done there. I've spoken in front of the UN Security Council. A lot of my friends have, and they go in there with the pre-written notes. They don't even respond to anything you say because their heads are already made up. They're like ostriches. Their heads are in the sand. They don't want to hear anything. I don't think it should be dissolved. There's got to be something there at the UN where it used to have some teeth. Some of the resolutions that were passed by the UN Security Council, many of them were abided by member nations. But when it comes to Israel, Israel doesn't care, doesn't really regulate. Israel should be kicked out of the UN since it doesn't respect the UN. You can't have someone like that in the United Nations that, even though they're not on the Security Council, but they certainly get to speak a lot whenever the issue of Israel comes up. They get up there and blow a lot of smoke and bullshit, and it shouldn't be tolerated. They should be expelled from the UN. They do not abide by the UN Charter and by UN resolutions. It's like a 3-year-old kid that is nasty as can be and doesn't care and doesn't listen to his mother or his father or anybody else. And brother and sister, that's a very light analogy. All right. What I'm saying is that Israel, the way they've acted over the last 75 years, just ignore everything that the UN passes. They don't care. You know why? Because they got nuclear weapons. A little country with nuclear weapons, they think they're the toughest people in the world. But you know what? Sooner or later, their number's going to be up. All tyrannical nations eventually, have a bad day, and they're about to, I believe, very soon that they're going to face the music. And like I said, seriously, it's going to be a nightmare for them. I really do believe that because everyone's getting fed up with them. They can't just continue and bully the world because they got their psychotic, their mindset, the leaders there about the Samson option, which is using nuclear weapons. They would use them. So that's how they got everybody bullied and intimidated. As far as Erdogan goes, that guy, it's one day to the next. he's a psychotic himself. And I think with Zelensky, Zelensky gave him a couple of lines of his bag of cocaine, and he snorted it out with these crazy statements about all of the land that's part of the Russian Federation has to be returned. It's not part of Ukraine; those are part of the Russian Federation. Ask this young lady here, Faina. Ask my friend Valerie, who runs a pizza restaurant in the city of Mariupol. You ask anybody. I was there. I mean, you ask anybody in any of those cities. They don't want to be a part of this fascist, what's going to be a rump state. It's going to be about this big. All right, they're going to be half the size of Taiwan before it's over.
Окей, еще вопрос. Трамп обещал рассекретить данные по убийству Кеннеди и Мартина Лютера. Насколько сейчас это опасно для американской власти, если учесть, что сейчас любые расследования воспринимаются обществом иначе? Если раньше из-за коррупции или расследования можно было брать от власти президента, сейчас даже расследования против демократов и семьи Байдена особо ничего не изменяет в обществе, с учетом наличия огромного количества фейков, которые СМИ производят часами.
Okay, another question to discuss. Trump promised to declassify the information on assassination of Kennedy and Martin Luther. How dangerous do you think this is now for American government, considering that now any investigations are perceived by society very differently? That is, if earlier, due to some investigation, due to corruption, it was possible to remove the president from power. Now, even investigation against Democrats or against the Biden family don't change anything in society. And given the amount of fakes that are produced by the media all the time,
it would be good if people knew what it's an open secret that the CIA and other scoundrels are the ones that killed Kennedy, and they buried it. They had a commission and all that. If people knew the truth about it, about how they not only killed him, but then they covered it up with this bogus Warren Commission, and now it's been buried. If they have nothing to hide, then show it to us. I mean, theoretically, this is democracy, and those are our papers. It doesn't belong to the CIA. It doesn't belong to any kind of intelligence agency. It belongs to us, and it's been 62 years, and they won't let them go. But I think that they're busy redacting everything because it's an embarrassment, and it's showing the dirty laundry. That's just one. If they really showed the CIA files on everything that they've done since 1948, the country would be in complete revolt. The world knows. The world knows what happened. They know what happened in Argentina and Chile in 1973. They know what happened in Iran in 1953 and Guatemala in 54. They know what happened to the Italian and Greek democracies in the 40s, and every Lumumba, what happened to him, and on and on. I'd be here for all day if I were to tell you all of the stuff that the CIA did. It's an embarrassment to this country, and people should know it. That would improve the democracy. People would be informed. I'm not so sure that the public would rise up. They're just walking around. I'm looking out the window. Everybody's walking around with their cell phones. They're not reading. They're not really digesting any information that they should actually know. So they're in a state of fog, man. The time machine, they go into the future, and they have all these people that willingly go have themselves carved up and died and fed to the warlocks. All right, that's what they are. Their mindset. H.G. Wells is a classic book, and plus, the president right now has to be very careful as to what they can say. They're going to do things, but the Epstein stuff. There's a lot of people in those Epstein files. They're not going to cut loose JFK, MLK, and RFK, Robert Kennedy, those files, because they have a lot to hide. And I think that's just a threat. Maybe that's Trump's way of keeping them at bay, because there's already been, like I said, attempts on his life, at least 2 that we know. And it's so easy to get to a president. It really is. He's not safe in that house. He's not safe anywhere there. It's too easy to infiltrate. And not that I agree with most of the stuff that he does. And, we haven't had the bombings in Gaza since he took office. And even though Mike was sharing the Starlink with the Ukrainians, which he shouldn't be doing, because all he's doing is prolonging the war. And you know, having 2 people killed in Moscow yesterday, without Starlink, that wouldn't have happened. They really need to just shut it down. But, you know, the people that don't want you to know what they did through the JFK files are the same people mindset that wants to keep this war going.
Вопрос, который не могу не задать. Как поживает ваша собака?
A question that Faina just has to ask. How's your dog doing?
I don't know. I'll show you.
Какая прелесть.
Who's that? The dog's name is Sophia. You know who gave me this dog?
No.
Roger.
That's awesome.
Потрясающе.
She looks like a little monkey, doesn't she?
Such a wonderful girl. How old is she?
3.
Всего 3
She's
годика.
older than Faina. Faina is only 15, 16 now, coming up. So
Yeah.
the dog in dog years, 3 years, is 21. Yes, that's what they mean. They say dog years. If you're 1, it's 7 years for each year.
А животные вообще переживают трудности. Какую они роль играют в вашей жизни?
How would you answer this question? What role do animals play in your life? If you'd sum it up.
Oh, they play a big role. I mean, it keeps me very happy having this dog and taking her for a walk. And if I take her into the radio studio with me, she's such a great, I don't want to call her a lap dog, but a dog that is very loyal. And she's a lot of fun. And people love her. You go into the subway, and everybody loves the dog. And I go out to Coney Island, where there's a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of Russians. And you got to be very careful what you say. I had 4 Ukrainians over there, and I had the dog with me, thank God. Otherwise, he probably would have killed me, because I said, you guys, why are you here? You guys are in your 20s. Why don't you go home and fight? Pick up a rifle and fight, you know? You don't even have to join. They'll pick you up in your house and drag you out.
Собака потрясающая.
Well, Faina just loves your dog. She's beautiful.
She loves her because she's staring at her, all right? She wants to reach through the screen and grab Faina and bring her. If they let me in, I'll bring her to Moscow and then to Lugansk, all right? She can protect me against HIMARS missiles, you know, but it's worth it. I really would like to go. My friends are there right now. They were there. Judge Napolitano and Larry Johnson have been there for 5 days. And they met with Lavrov yesterday for a couple of hours. Larry Johnson, who's been on my show many times, as is Judge Napolitano.
Будем ждать.
Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing you here.
Yes. All right. Definitely. How's the food in Lugansk?
Как всегда потрясающе.
Great. We know the best places.
Okay, good. Listen, when I was in Donetsk, and every restaurant I went into, which was a traditional Russian restaurant, because the guys with me, 2 of them were Russian, and it's a Russian city. And I'm walking around worried about the HIMARS missile. I mean, I was always uncomfortable because the time I was there were attacks every single day on civilian targets. And I said, well, this is a perfect place for them to bomb this restaurant. And I'm downstairs in the bathroom, and these guys are drinking and having a good time. Didn't bother them, but I was a little nervous. I wasn't used to it. Most Americans speak one language poorly. The Russians speak a couple of languages, and they speak it well. You know who's a good Russian speaker? Zelensky.
All Ukrainians are good Russian speakers. Russian is their native language that they try to suppress, but they all speak Russian.
I know. Look, they're Russian. It's part of Russia. And so they decided to come up with this fake country called Ukraine. And even where Kiev and all those, the western part, was part of Hungary, part of other nations as well. It was a big mistake. Big mistake. Khrushchev giving them Ukraine. Big mistake. That was one of them. You wouldn't have this problem today, but you can't do it. You can't change things. Maybe it was a mistake for what Gorbachev did without getting any kind of guarantee that, on writing in a treaty before collapsing the old USSR. I know there's a lot of mistakes that were made. You can never trust the Americans. Americans are not trustworthy, all right? They're not trustworthy. She's the only trustworthy American right here. Right here. There's her. You want to see a trustworthy American? It's her.
Это правда, София потрясающая.
Faina agrees with you that Sophia is a very trustworthy person and she's great. And yes, animals don't lie. Animals are always honest.
Yes. She doesn't like other dogs. She likes human beings. She's just the opposite of me. I don't like human beings. I like dogs. She loves being on the subway because there's so many people on it, even though it's filthy. It's not like Mayakovsky stop there. The subway in the underground in Moscow. And I put it on Twitter many times how beautiful. They're like museums. Here, it's filth. It is dirty. It's like being in a mine shaft, being in the subways here. And they're noisy and they're slow and they're dangerous. And you go to Moscow, my God, it's night and day. That's what we should be doing, is having engineers go over there and say, how did you do this? There's so many rats on the subways here, you know what I mean? And, graffiti and advertisements, you don't see that there. And my friend Larry Johnson was saying, and Judge Napolitano, how clean it is in Moscow. I mean, it's like the streets are no potholes anywhere. And you see these street washing machines going by, even the smallest streets, every single day. It's spotless. You go all the way to any airport and there's no potholes. It's really the city of lights. The lighting there is much better than Paris. Look at the Bolshoi Theater, how beautiful that place is. There's no place like that in Paris. I went all around for 2 weeks in Moscow, right? But I went, how much can you see in 2 weeks? It's just not enough time. But I did see Sour Mogia. Have you seen Sour Mogia? That's the greatest monument in the world. Really is beautiful. Way up there, and all of those plaques on the side, on both sides. You know, you learn a lot. There's a lot to see. I know that.
Говорю, что в Москве.
We are really looking. She says we are really looking forward to greet you in Moscow.
Right, really.
Faina comes to Moscow very often now.
Oh, good.
Спасибо большое за
Great
потрясающие
stories. Thank you very much for this fantastic conversation.
Well, say goodbye.
What?
Oh my God, who's going to take a picture now? Well, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Спасибо
It
большое.
definitely was.
Good. All right. Russians have a good sense of humor. I like that.